From my Miami family to all of you, welcome to Oxford, Ohio.
In 1991, when he showed up as a student in my intermediate macroeconomic theory course. How do I describe him? How many times have I been asked that in the last 3 days? So let me repeat: bright, articulate, intellectually curious, inquisitive. It was however, it was during office hours over the course of the semester that I got to know Paul. He would drop by, God bless him, not to discuss grades and not to discuss the economic theory being developed in the classroom, but to discuss political philosophy and economic philosophy. We discussed the writings of Hayek. We discussed the writings of Milton Friedman. We talked about, we talked about supply-side economics, and we talked about the role of government in society, a limited role for it. And we talked about the importance of individual freedom and liberty. And what I learned from these discussions, and what everyone knows now, is that Paul is a man of ideas, a man of vision. So again, I welcome Paul to Miami, and if I may end on a personal note, I want to thank Paul for showing up in my class in 1999 because well, I learned so much from him. It is now my great pleasure to introduce a gentleman who got to know Paul when Paul was a young staffer on the House Budget Committee, the governor of the state of Ohio, the Honorable John Kasich, and Senator Rob Portman.
This Miami University, one of the greatest education institutions in all of the world, not just in Ohio, America. Well, it's great to be here today, and especially with the hometown hero, Paul Ryan. I just want to talk to you a second about our great state, because we've got a lot of young people here and young minds. When I became governor about a year and a half ago, we had just gone through a process of losing 400,000 jobs. I had an $8 billion deficit and had 89 cents in the rainy day fund. Many of you students could have doubled it. So we decided that it didn't make any sense to raise taxes because we weren't very competitive. So we reformed government, we cut taxes, we took care of the poor, and we cut those taxes to spur growth. And we engineered government so people would get more for the dollars they pay. Where are we today? Today, we have a balanced budget. Yeah! Today, we've gone from 89 cents to $500 million in the rainy day fund. And we've gone from 48 faith in job creation and the loss of 400,000 jobs to number 1 in job creation in the Midwest, number 4 in America, and the growth of 111,300 jobs. So you young Miami graduates, you're not going anywhere. You stay right here in Ohio and go into IT and medicine and logistics and the energy industry. It's all right here for you. But I have to tell you that one of the difficulties we have is the wind is always in my face coming from Washington. And I'll tell you why. They regulate like there's no tomorrow, which breaks the back of small business. They're talking about raising taxes on anybody who risks their money to create a job. And at the same time, they're running the largest deficit this country has ever seen, and the growth has been enormous in the debt. And to all of you people that are here, you young folks that are here, you're going to pay the price for this. And it's a very high, steep price, and it holds Ohio back. Now let me tell you a little bit about Paul Ryan, because I used to work with Paul. In fact, he was an aide to a senator or to a representative when I was on the budget committee. You know what Paul Ryan believes in most? Growth and prosperity. You see, for our society and our culture, it's about hope. It's about the fact that we can all live our God-given destinies. And for all of you young people who are here, the Lord has a destiny for you, and we want to unlock this economy so you can be what you were made to be. And that's what Paul Ryan believes in. And Paul Ryan is not a name caller. He's not a fabricator. He's a person that thinks we need to stare our problems straight in the eye and have the courage to solve them. And that's what all great leaders do. Fix the problems, solve the problems, lift the people, bring prosperity. It's absolutely fantastic, and that is what our hometown hero is all about. You know, the Romney-Ryan campaign is very similar to the campaign that I had. You see, when you have nothing to sell, you smear your opponent. You try to divert attention. You try to distort the facts. You don't run on your record. How are you going to run on a record of sky-high unemployment, sky-high debt, and all these folks out of work? So we're in the smear game. But you know, you're young, you're believers, and you're idealists. And I have to tell you, don't lose that. And that's what Romney is all about, the dream, the notion that America can be released, that we can all realize our human God-given potential. That is what it is all about. And we have in Washington, besides Paul Ryan, we have a great United States Senator in Rob Portman. I want to tell you. It was sort of funny because, as you know, he was seriously considered for this job. And you know what? His wife told me, not little Sally anymore, 17-year-old Sally is the vice president of her class, and Rob's wife said, this family can only stand one vice president at a time. Where is Sally? Give her a round of applause. Come on, Sally, you wave your hat. Tell you something about my friend. He is principled. He's got an incredible family. He's committed to the country. He's smarter than a whip. And he's a great United States Senator. And I have to tell you, in that town, we just need more Rob Portmans, because they are not producing for us. Without any further ado, the great United States Senator from right here in the Cincinnati area, Rob Portman.
John, thank you. Folks, if we could just do what we're doing in Ohio and Washington, D.C., we could start turning this thing around, couldn't we? Think about what John Kasich and some of the legislators on the Republican side who are here today have done. They take this $8 billion deficit, which is a big number for Ohio. By the way, by Washington standards, that's just 2 days of the deficit. They balance the budget, but they don't do it by raising taxes, folks. They actually do it by cutting some taxes to attract more jobs to Ohio. Isn't that what we ought to be doing in Washington, D.C.? Things aren't going well. It's tough here in Ohio. As hard as John's working and the legislature's working, those headwinds are making it hard to make ends meet. Think about it. Unemployment's up. Growth is down. If you're graduating from college, as a lot of the young people here will be in about 9 months, half of them can't find a job that matches their degree. Half of them. Unemployed. Probably living at home in the basement. That's the reality. I mean, you look at what's going on, it's unbelievable. Manufacturing is taking a dip now. The last couple of months, manufacturing has actually gone down. That's really important to Ohio, to have manufacturing going up, not down. Folks, we're going in the wrong direction, aren't we? It's unbelievable that at this time, the President of the United States would come before the American people and say, don't worry, the private sector is doing fine. He needs to get out more. Maybe come to Ohio and talk to some of the workers and small business owners who tell me just the opposite. And folks, this is going to be really hard to believe. You know what he said a couple weeks ago in California when he was out on one of his many fundraising trips? He said, you know what? My economic policies are working. And that's why I ought to be reelected. We just talked about the numbers. They're dismal. His economic policies aren't working, but let's just use his own criteria. Let's not use Rob Portman's or the Republican ones. Let's see what he said. He said if we shove that $1 trillion stimulus bill through Congress, which was a big government approach, growing the size and scope of government, what would happen? We'd get the economy back on track. That today there'd be 5.6% unemployment. Folks, it's 50% higher than that. Is it working? No! It's not working. He said, look, if you pass my health care law, get it through Congress without a single Republican vote, do it the way I want to do it, with the big government approach, putting the government between us and our doctor. He said that health care costs would go down for us, for our families. On average, he said about $2,500 per family. Folks, guess what? It's going up $2,500 per family. Is it working? No! It's not working. He said, okay, look, if you elect me, we're going to cut the deficit in half. Do you remember that? Yeah. Unfortunately and sadly, just last week, they told us this year, again, there will be a $1 trillion deficit. That's going to be the 4th year in a row. Folks, America's never had a $1 trillion deficit until the last 3 years. Now we're going to have another one. You tell me, is it working? No! No, it's not working.
It's working for China.
It's not working, and it's not going to work until we get a change of leadership. The good news is we have in Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan the team to turn it around. They've got the experience, they've got the record, and they've got the policies to get America back on track. These policies work, by the way, because they're time-honored. They're the principles that have made our country great, and they understand it. Paul Ryan, as I said earlier, is a Red Hawk, and so Red Hawk should be soaring today. But he's also a very good friend. I served with him on the Ways and Means Committee, the Budget Committee. He's one of those guys in Congress who's there for the right reason. And you know what that reason is? It's about his family. It's about your family. It's about being sure that the American dream can be restored. That's what Paul Ryan's about. It's not partisanship. It's not who's up, who's down. It's what's best for our country. That's why we need him as Vice President of the United States. Folks, he is, as his professor said, I would be really afraid if one of my professors came on stage to talk about me. I was not the stellar student that apparently Paul was all the time. But I will tell you one thing. Paul Ryan, if we can get him in there, knows his way around that town. He knows what we have to do in terms of getting this budget under control. He knows we got to stop the spending that's out of control to make government more responsive, more effective, more efficient. And ultimately what he's about is growing the economy so every American has more opportunity and we get back to America being that beacon of hope and opportunity for the rest of the world. Isn't that what we want? That's what Paul Ryan's about.